After an historic midterm, Harris County turns bright blue on the strength of a bona fide Beto bump. Will the power shift hold as a 27-year-old prepares to lead much of the greater Houston community? In the nation's capital, Attorney General Sessions shown the door by an ungrateful president. Is the firing a last-ditch effort by Donald Trump to derail the Mueller probe? Here at home, firefighters win pay parity with police in resounding fashion. Will the mayor respond with hundreds of layoffs ahead of a re-election year? On the border, hundreds of troops deploy to block uninvited arrivals as the president suspends the right to seek asylum. Will an immigrant caravan of thousands heed the message and turn back? I'm Greg Grugan, and welcome to What's Your Point, where our panelists call it like they see it. Let's greet them. Starting us off, Republican strategist Jessica Colon. Next up, progressive commentator and attorney Nyanza Moore. In the three-spot, Bob Price, associate editor of Breitbart, Texas. Batting cleanup, longtime super neighborhood leader Tomaro Bell. That's not her. Businessman, columnist, and former Kemah Mayor Bill King. You saw him earlier. And closing us out on the hot corner, Chicano activist and educator Tony Diaz.
That is me.
Let's get this going. While Beto O'Rourke went home a loser last Tuesday night, his high-energy insurgent Senate campaign triggered a bright blue wave which fell short in significant portions of our state, but thoroughly swamped both Harris and Fort Bend counties. Aside from a clean sweep of all 59 judicial races, the sheer volume of straight-ticket Democratic ballots cast knocked out highly regarded incumbent Ed Emmett from his post as Harris County judge. In his place will be Lina Hidalgo, a 27-year-old Colombian immigrant fresh out of graduate school, who will soon be running the nation's third most populous county and control the multi-billion-dollar budget that goes with it.
Fundamentally, people want more from their county government, is what I've heard throughout the campaign trail. So broadly, it's a county government that is proactive, that is there, transparent, present, not just when it's raining, not just when there's a flood.
Among the notable Democratic winners was former Harris County Sheriff Adrian Garcia, who defeated Jack Mormon in the Precinct 2 commissioner's race. Aside from snapping a two-election losing streak, Garcia's victory gives Democrats a majority on the court for the first time in a long time. I'm going to turn to Tomaro Bell. I know you're ready to go. What do you think about the Democratic wave in Harris County? Is it real? Will it last?
I am very, very pleased with the Democratic wave. I was shocked at the loss of Judge Ed Emmett from his seat as county judge. That being said, if they keep the voters enthused and enthusiastic, there may be a chance. But as most people should know, this was the last year of straight ticket voting in Texas. Now, it amazes me that the Republicans see straight ticket voting as a crime when they've lived off of it for almost 30 years, okay? So when you want to talk about the trough that you've been eating at for 30 years not being good for you, I swear it's a bitter pill for them to swallow. But when they swept out in '94, every Democratic judge at Harris County, including John Peavy and Carl Walker, they had no problem with it. What I am upset about is the attitude of the judges whose courts will be emptied on the new coming judges coming in. And shocked because I love Ed Young and his comments about the Democratic Party after this sweep, after Culberson gave his speech. That is, you don't do that. You don't do that. Politics are cyclical. If you don't know it, don't get in a fight.
Jessica, I would imagine in Republican circles this week was a week of reflection, retrenchment. What's going on?
Yeah, we're absolutely looking to start to rebuild right now. It started on election night, quite frankly. It's not that long ago that in 2012, the RNC, the Republican National Committee, put out an autopsy report to look to how to rebuild and win the White House in 2016, and that was successful, clearly. And we had a big night that night, and we'll have a big night again in 2 years. And we're taking a look at what we need to do. Clearly, as Tomaro said, politics is cyclical, and so we're not going to have straight party vote in 2 years, and that reconfigures the entire map. And our best talent is now on the field, and we get to rework everyone and put and recruit candidates for races across the board and start over in 2020.
Tony, you've been a big supporter of Lina Hidalgo from the beginning. No one gave her much of a chance. And then we started hearing rumblings that maybe 1 in 5, 1 in 4 that Emmett gets taken out. Are you confident she can handle this job?
Oh, she's brilliant. She is Ivy League educated, super motivated, very smart. And here's the thing that I draw attention to people. I don't want her success undermined because she campaigned hard. I didn't see Ed Emmett, a former judge, campaigning as hard. And the other thing, too, is I want to remind people that it was a slim victory, about 17,000 votes, which, if you look at how many people voted for Greg Abbott but didn't vote for Cruz, that was about 400,000 Republicans that split a ticket. So I think if Emmett had campaigned harder and taken it seriously, he would have withstood this. But on top of it, Lina Hidalgo is brilliant. I kind of don't like people just attributing only to straight ticket voting, especially because if I remember correctly, when Chris Daniels upset someone to win his post, he was like the young wonder boy or something like that. So now that it's a woman, now it's a minority, it's like a fluke. That's not the case. I am happy, though, that she's walking into a commissioner's court that is now majority minority. And that's key, too, because she's going to be working with leaders who have experience. And I think that's also going to help her as well. So I expect a lot of great things from her. The one thing I am going to say, too, is I wasn't wrong about Beto, because every legitimate poll has a margin of error of about 3 to 5%. So Beto lost by only 2.6%, 200,000 votes, and I think that's totally going to be different.
I don't know if that's going to work on your stake bet with
Mom,
what's your take? What are you hearing out there from Republican circles? The margins statewide were smaller. The big win for Democrats in Harris County.
Well, nationally, the blue wave kind of petered out everywhere, but in Texas, it was a very tight race on the statewide elections, much tighter than it should have been or has been in the past. And of course, in Harris County, you saw this devastation of the entire county, countywide elected officials. So it's a rough time for the Republican Party in Texas and in Harris County that we need to get back and regroup. We can't just wait on the fact that we're not going to have straight ticket ballot and think that's going to cure everything. We've got to come to the people with ideas that will sell, that will attract people, attract voters, things like criminal justice reform, things that we can all agree on, and bring those issues to the table so that we can reclaim the power. It's going to be an interesting thing watching Lina Hidalgo in the county commissioner's court. She doesn't have the resume to go out and get hired to do that job, but she has that job now, and so hopefully for the county, she will do a good job, and we'll be watching.
Nyanza, I want to go to you, but save some time for Bill King.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
You have some important.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, I guess you spend so much time on everybody else. Let me just go ahead and put it to you what it is. I don't care about the blue wave across the country. I care about the blue wave in Harris County, and I also care about what it means to win and how you're supposed to lose. I don't like that the racist Republican judges that have been upset by these African American women that went ahead and made a blue wave in Harris County. I don't like it when judges decide to pack up and leave on Wednesday in the middle of court. I also don't like it when another judge, let me just call them who they are, Judge Prine, Judge Devlin, you know who you are, you know you're sore losers, you know you're probably racist and you're probably homophobic and you also are biased against women. But when you decide to release juveniles without their parents there, in the middle of a court session, and the only thing you ask is make sure you're not going to go out and kill somebody, that's a problem. Whenever you have the judge-elect going to say hello to her new court that she will be taking over on January the 2nd, to say to her, get the hell out of here, and what are you doing here? That's a problem. That is one thing that African American lawyers have faced in Harris County for the last 24 years. I know it's 1994 because that's the year I pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha. It's been 24 years since the blue wave has flipped in Harris County. Black women have had to go up against racist judges in Houston, Texas, every single day of the week. We have had racist judges sit on the bench, chastise you, sanction you, tell you you're not smart enough, tell you you're not bright enough. But now, guess what? There are 19 African American female judges, and 3 of them are Alpha Kappa Alpha women from my chapter. They are taking over. They're not going anywhere. And if you don't like it, pack up your old robe and leave.
Okay, Bill King, as someone who sits in the middle of the political spectrum and somebody who has some administrative experience as well, I want you to comment on Lena Hidalgo and whether you think that the ship has sailed on the Republican Party in Harris County.
Well, the Republican Party in Harris County and across the country is in a demographic death spiral. They've continued to rely on older white voters, and that population is decreasing, not increasing. As Steve Kleinberg likes to say, us old white guys would like to create a lot more babies, but it's not very likely we're going to. And so they've got to figure out a way to reach out to a broader audience that they have. They've been living off the fact that they've gerrymandered Congress, and the fact that the states are sort of naturally gerrymandered by the fact that no matter what your population is, you get 2 senators. That is all gradually going away. In the gross vote in the House and the Senate, Democrats won overwhelmingly in both of those. And so they better figure out a new message or they are becoming a minority party. Let me say this on Lena. You know, we've had her on the show here. I found her to be very bright, obviously has a great education, but she doesn't have much experience. The county judge doesn't have actual many formal responsibilities, but there's one critical one, and that is emergency management, and in this case that means hurricane evacuation. And my advice to Lena this morning is forget about all this other stuff and study hurricane evacuation nonstop until you get it down, because it's very possible that in 6 or 9 months you're going to be standing up there in front of that television telling people in Houston what they need to do in case of evacuation. And this is an issue that absolutely means the lives and deaths of thousands of Houstonians. Get on top of that issue now, quickly.
I'm going to venture to say that in a crisis, she could call Ed Emmett.
Exactly.
He would offer as much guidance because he loves his community.
Yes.
It's where his kids live, and toss out all the partisan stuff. Okay, when we return, Attorney General Jeff Sessions gets the hook from a president clearly looking for cover from the Mueller probe. Stay with us. Welcome back. Before we dive back into the repercussions of the midterm election, there was a huge development in the nation's capital with the forced resignation of Attorney General Jeff Sessions and the elevation of Matthew Whitaker to acting AG. Particularly significant because Whitaker has been an outspoken critic of the Mueller investigation, which began with possible collusion with Russia, but has branched out to include multiple areas of possible law breaking by the president, his family, and their associates.
I could see a scenario where Jeff Sessions is replaced with a recess appointment, and that Attorney General doesn't fire Bob Mueller, but he just reduces his budget so low that his investigation grinds to almost a halt.
Matthew Whitaker is facing scrutiny over his deep connections to World Patent Marketing, a company accused of scamming many veterans out of their life savings. Question, does Whitaker have the power to smother the Mueller probe, or does that authority, per the Constitution, lie exclusively with an Attorney General that's actually been confirmed by the Senate? Bob Price, jump in here on Jeff Sessions.
Well, first off, I don't think anyone was surprised that Jeff Sessions was fired. And matter of fact, the resignation letter was written who knows when. It didn't even have a date on it. So it's been sitting around for a while getting ready to be used. And the timing is such that, you know, presidents make major changes after midterm elections. They get a signal from the people, they make some changes, they move forward. As far as Whitaker, he's going to be a caretaker in the Attorney General's position. The president's going to announce a new Attorney General sometime in the very near future, and that person will make decisions on what happens from there. So everybody just needs to kind of chill out a little bit on that.
Nyanza, is the president looking for cover from Mueller with this election, this decision?
Well, I think he got a full blanket just now. He's looking for cover, he's running, he's hiding. But I do believe that for the question that you asked, the acting doesn't have the power to do anything against Mueller. The actual Attorney General, whoever that may be, hopefully, if the president, at least he named him the acting instead of just trying to put him up, so that we can actually have, you know, some type of vetting process. But I do believe we knew that Mueller's investigation was going to be smothered just a little bit right now, and maybe at a little bit of a standstill. They may try to figure out a way to yank the funding, but at the end of the day, this acting Attorney General has no power to do anything to Mueller.
Okay, Jess, jump in here.
I think we'll see a new name after the first of the year when the new senators are sworn in and those confirmation hearings will begin quickly. Clearly, this Mueller investigation is like the great blob of investigations. It just keeps expanding out and trying to encapsulate more and more things. It's completely lost the main focus because the main focus is not true. There is no collusion. We've been talking about this for 2 years. They have found nothing. If there was some smoking gun or something, you think that they would have discovered it by now after intense investigation after 2 years. The people who want to keep this going are clearly the Democrats and Democrats in the House because that's their objective is going to be to
100%.
obstruct and try to investigate and try to weigh down progress and good things for this country by investigation of the president and waste all of our tax money.
Bill King.
Yes, and Bill Walls.
I thought the most interesting thing to me was this discussion about whether or not this was a constitutional appointment. There were legal scholars from the left and the right who were both saying that you cannot appoint somebody even in acting capacity that hadn't been confirmed by the Senate. And apparently there are, I don't know, 3 or 4 people that qualified for that could have been selected. And so the question has been raised, does this make anything that he does in the interim invalid? Void ab initio is the legal term, which could have tremendous legal effects. The other thing that I think is going to be interesting is trying to see if he can pick somebody that will get confirmed by the new Senate. Because I can tell you, Romney, Ben Sass, several of these people are not going to go along with just anybody. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens on the confirmation after the first of the year, whoever he ultimately selects.
Well, Democrats have taken control of the House, and there's talk of multiple investigations. Yes. Tony, investigations justified from the democratically controlled House?
Well, I tell you what, at the very least, let's follow the law. But Donald Trump is scared of being indicted, scared of being impeached, and scared of showing his taxes. Expect every single rule to be tested. He rigged the whole Supreme Court, so we're in for a roller coaster ride one way or the other.
Tomorrow, close us out on this.
I hope that whoever they pick for Attorney General, I'm not kidding, give them every down to the kindergarten, did you bring cookies on snack day investigation. I hope it's not something rushed through, fixed, and that you don't have a chance to vet or see if they really have what it takes to do the job.
Okay, we're going to leave it right there. Up next, the president takes his hostility against the media to a new level, tossing CNN's Jim Acosta out of the White House press corps. Was it justified or censorship? Stay with us. Welcome back. A major development in the president's ongoing hostility for much of the media. It started with an ugly encounter with CNN reporter Jim Acosta and a tussle over a microphone.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way.
Okay, in the aftermath, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders revoked Acosta's press credential and issued a video of the microphone tussle, which multiple experts say was clearly edited to mislead viewers. The administration's retaliatory action has been condemned by the White House Correspondents Association and others. I'm going to go to my fellow journalist, Bob Price. Your thoughts on this?
Well, I watched this live when it happened, and I was shocked that she actually touched him in a way that was inappropriate for that situation. The audio board operator just needs to hit the kill switch on that microphone when he's done talking. But the real issue is, it's not a reporter's job to debate the person that they're interviewing. It's their job to ask the questions, get the answers, and report the answers. The president's absolutely right. He is rude. He is absolutely abusing his position as a White House correspondent.
Tomaro Bell, what do you think of what happened?
Give me a break. Anytime somebody is trying to get something from the reporter, are you going to answer my question? That's what they do. They try to get to the facts. That I'm saying that to get up there and give a character assassination of somebody, it'd be different if you say, I'm not answering your questions, but oh, you shouldn't be working there. Oh, they need to find. No, you don't sit up there telling me in my job, in my career, and then you're going to tell me how to behave. You are not my advisor on my career.
For the record, if that video was doctored, Sarah Sanders should be held accountable for it. Go ahead.
You know, Jim Acosta is the worst offender in the press pool. Every day is combative. He opened up this question to the president with, "I want to challenge you," not that I want to ask you a question. I don't know all the ins and outs of press credentials and the decorum that should professional decorum that should take place, but there's no question that Jim Acosta is making a name for himself off of every single day being at the throat of Sarah Sanders and this administration. And so I trust their judgment in pulling his credentials on this.
What about the assault?
Real quick, Tony.
Considering all the people that have worked for Trump that have been indicted or flipped on him, I wouldn't go to him for human resource information. So I want to remind people, too, that look at how he's treated African-American female reporters. And look at that. He kicked Jorge Ramos out of a press conference. Now he kicked Acosta out. Do you see a pattern here if you got a Spanish surname or you're African-American?
Bill, final word on this. I'll come back.
Jim and Acosta and CNN are laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That was your final word?
All right, we're going to leave it there.
Money, money, money.
Up next, the deeper ramifications of this rock'em sock'em midterm. We've got a pair of top political minds all set to deliver a debrief. Analysts Mark Jones and Jay Iyer take the hot seat after the break. Welcome back. We've now had a few days to process the outcome of this year's midterms, an election which saw roughly 52% of registered Texas voters cast a ballot. As the dust settles over the political landscape, we've asked veteran analysts Mark Jones of Rice and Jay Iyer of Texas Southern for insight on what has changed. Gentlemen, glad to see you.
Thanks.
I like to talk to you guys just for fun. All right. Clearly a sweep here for the Democrats in Harris County. Given the double-figure margin of victory, is it fair to say prospects are looking bleak, at least in the near term, for the Republicans? I'll start with Jay.
Yeah, I think that's a fair estimate. The chances for Republicans, I think, doing well, certainly in 20 and 22 moving forward, are pretty slim. You've got a sort of a demographic time bomb that just sort of exploded on them. There's just not enough votes for Republicans right now without fundamentally sort of changing their brand here locally. And some of that is a reflection of the national politics.
Mark, you agree with that? And how much of this sweep was attributed to O'Rourke's charisma and antipathy for the president?
Well, I think some of that certainly was Donald Trump. As long as Donald Trump is in the White House, Harris County Republicans have a bleak future. That combined with Beto O'Rourke's turnout mechanisms really led to the real sweep. Republicans could be competitive, but as Jay mentioned, they have to change their message, their rhetoric. You can't continue to alienate large segments of the population and hope to win when those large segments are growing while your base is declining.
Okay, Democrats prevailed here, but Republicans held on to power at just about every level in Austin.
Right.
All the levels.
Yeah,
albeit not by the margins they've become accustomed to. Democrats did pick up more than a dozen seats in the House ahead of the critical speaker race to succeed Joe Straus. Will that development have an impact? I'm going to start with Mark on this.
Oh, very much so. Any hope that the more conservative wing of the party had of electing a speaker of their vein, those were tossed out the window. We're going to be looking at either someone from the Straus wing of the party, such as Drew Darby from St. Angelo or Walter Ford Price from Amarillo, or someone who's a little more conservative that works with that wing, such as Dennis Bonnen from here in Angleton. Say Bonnen probably is the likely favorite. And they're going to be a speaker that's very different from, say, a Dan Patrick. They're going to be people that are not going to focus on red meat, hot button, polarizing issues. They're going to focus on bread and butter issues like infrastructure, education, and healthcare, trying to win back some of those votes that Dan Patrick lost for him.
You think the Democrats can get a firewall like Straus was?
Well, I think I agree with Mark. I think Dennis Bonnen is the most likely candidate to be speaker. He's worked very closely with Democrats here in the past, particularly here in the local delegation. I think you're going to see a different outlook for a couple of reasons. One, Bonnen is naturally more inclined to sort of work on more substantive issues and less on the red meat social issues. But secondly, they're already looking at what's going on in 20 and 22. There's at least 9 to 10 House seats that likely would flip in a presidential cycle. So Dennis Bonnen and whoever ends up being speaker, their number one priority is controlling the House.
Okay, Democrat Lizzie Fletcher dislodged 18-year incumbent John Culberson in CD7. Is this flip a precursor of, shall we say, the suburban future? And I say this with Fort Bend County and District 22 in mind. Mark, go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, CD7, I think, had a lot to do with John Culberson being a weak candidate, Lizzie Fletcher being a strong candidate, Donald Trump in the White House, and Beto O'Rourke on the ballot. I think if James Lloyd had defeated John Culberson 2 years ago in the Republican primary, we might have seen a different outcome. It does suggest, though, when Republicans hit redistricting in 2021, they're probably not going to be able to keep all of their Harris County seats, and they're probably going to have to give up a few. So things are shifting against them, especially in Harris County and Fort Bend.
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a swing in terms of suburban voters as a whole. That's probably going to bring a district like 22 in play that has a large minority-based population. We saw Fort Bend County dramatically shift. A lot of it depends on who the Democrats nominate in 20 for president, how big that's, how successful that candidate is. But I do think 22's in play. If you look at the margins there, O'Rourke barely lost 22. It's very possible that in 2 years you could see a flip.
Okay, two figures, fascinating figures. Beto O'Rourke and a 27-year-old who is now the county judge of the third biggest county in the country, Lina Hidalgo. I want you both to comment on their futures. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, yeah, certainly this is the third most populous county, bigger than 25 U.S. states. Lina Hidalgo was elected as a very good candidate, but she was elected purely based on the straight ticket vote. That is, without the straight ticket vote and without Beto O'Rourke and Donald Trump, she's not a county judge. It opens up a whole new world. I think it's unknown. We really aren't going to know how she works as county judge until she's in office. She could be very successful. She could be very unsuccessful.
What does Beto do now?
That's a great question. I think there's some people who clearly want him to look at 2020 running against John Cornyn for U.S. Senate, assuming Cornyn runs for re-election. Or there's a groundswell of support for him to run for president of the United States, kind of following in the model of George H.W. Bush, who did something similar like that when he lost for Senate, and obviously sort of the Abraham Lincoln historical model. I'm not sure what he does, but whatever he does, I think he's built a machine and a process to move forward. But the future is definitely bright for him. But as far as Lina Hidalgo goes, I think there's one thing I think it's important to point out. What we saw last night was, and I would slightly disagree with Mark, it's not so much the straight ticket, it was a generic preference for Democrats in general.
I agree. No, I agree 100% with that.
Yeah. I think what people are forgetting sometimes is that, sure, 75% of the vote was straight ticket, but there was an overwhelming advantage for Democrats across the board that carried her into office. Clearly, I think we'll see moving forward that she's got a good team around her, and how she develops will be on her shoulders.
I'm certain of one thing, that I'll be talking to both of you again. Okay, when we come back, Houston voters ignore the mayor's warning and award of firefighters a big raise at the ballot box. So what's next in the pitched battle over pay parity? We dive in after the break. Welcome back. Despite repeated warnings from Mayor Sylvester Turner, Houston voters resoundingly approved Proposition B, which gives the city's firefighters pay parity with the city's police. Now, in recognition of the steep price tag, firefighter union chief Marty Langton says he's willing to go back to the bargaining table and consider spreading the wage hike out over multiple years. Now, for his part, the mayor says he'll soon be shedding workers off the payroll, pain to be inflicted largely on the fire department. Now, as we previously discussed, Turner is also signaling legal action, which prompted well-known litigator and potential mayoral candidate Tony Busby to offer firefighters his services for free. Oh, Bill King, what do you have to say about this?
I would encourage everyone to go and watch the video on the City Council from last Wednesday, and the mayor's report is the section, and listen to Sylvester's comments, and also listen to Dave Martin's comments. Both of them were angry at the firefighters. They blame the firefighters for this, and they clearly intend to inflict as much pain on the firefighters as possible. Dave Martin specifically said this needs to come 100% out of their budget. I got news for Sylvester and Dave. The firefighters didn't do this. 60% of Houstonians did this. They said they wanted parity. Now, whether you like that or not, look, I didn't like Prop A. It passed. I'm not out there griping and belly aching about the fact that the voters were wrong and they didn't know it. That's been litigated and settled. And so you've got to figure out how to do this. And if you start laying off firefighters instead of hike and bike coordinators and Department of Education when we don't have any schools to administer, I promise you the Houston voters are not going to be happy.
Nyanza, I promise I'm coming next, but I'll go to tomorrow now.
Listen, at multiple town hall meetings that they held, he repeatedly said, I will do the wishes and the will of the people. The people have spoken. It passed. They have pay parity. Now for all you firefighters who work a multiplicity of extra jobs, most of them full-time, when you get pay parity, you're gonna get schedule parity as well. You will be working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, or 7 days a week, like officers do. You will not be able to live in Arizona, Colorado, Wyoming, and North Dakota. You will have to bring your butt home. So when you get what you want, be careful what you wish for.
Nyanza.
I mean, the people have spoken, and the worst thing that we had going was Mayor Turner getting ready to lawyer up in case there was a loss. That was before the election even happened or the decision was made. And then you have another lawyer using an opportunity to say, hey, I'll represent you for free. That sounds very Trumpian to me. So and when you're saying I'll represent all these people for free, or I'll get, like, if you body slam a reporter, I'll represent you. Let's stop with that. Let's call it what it is. The people of Houston have spoken. Yep. Mayor Turner, I watched it on Wednesday as well. I don't know if you got a lesson on how to lose gracefully, but you missed that class.
20 seconds.
Yeah, I'll just say that it's amazing how people think voters got it wrong at the bottom of the ballot and got it right at the top. I mean, the hypocrisy of ballot parity is amazing.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Still ahead, plenty of new blood heading to Congress from the Bayou City. What should we expect? Plus, another hard line drawn at the border as the president shuts the door on those seeking asylum. Stay with us. There's more of What's Your Point just ahead. Welcome back. As California burns, the president sparks some emotional flames with his tweet of the week. There's no reason for these massive, deadly, and costly forest fires in California, except that forest management is so poor, billions of dollars are given each year, with so many lives lost, all because of gross mismanagement of the forests. Remedy now or no more federal funds. The president said that. 23 people have died this week. Now, speaking of the commander-in-chief, with thousands of Central American immigrants still hundreds of miles from the Texas border, President Trump this week invoked national security powers banning anyone who enters the country illegally from seeking asylum. The Trump administration says the crackdown is meant to end the so-called catch-and-release policies of the past and discourage illegal entry, which reached record levels in September. Tony, I'm going to let you go first on this.
Yeah, I think when people first voted for Trump to begin with and was talking about immigration issues, I think people thought when he said bad hombres, I think they thought what I thought should be common ground. We all want drug dealers, cartel members kicked out of the country, kept out. Instead, he's focusing on asylum seekers. These might be moms or women who are getting beat in their country. They may be people who are going to turn on cartel members. So I'm not sure why he's picking on these small things, and I think people have seen through it. I think he tried to make a big deal of the caravan. Haven't heard anything about the caravan ever since the election, and I think voters are seeing through all of this masquerade where he's trying to bait people into discriminatory rants to get them to come out and vote, and it didn't work. The other thing I want to say, too, if he was sincere, and if Republicans and Democrats are sincere about going after people who do our citizens' crimes and the immigrant community, like, I want these drug dealers kept out because they come to our communities, pick on our people who are scared to go to the police. He should be talking about El Chapo going to trial in the U.S. coming up. One of his goons in Chicago pleaded guilty and flipped on him. He should be talking about that, and that's the common ground we should be at, unless he's scared about all these flippers, too. That's really what he wants to stop.
Bob, can the president's move be an effective deterrent?
Well, we'll see how that works out, but probably not, because they know that once they get here, they've got blanket immunity and they'll go wherever they want to go. The issue is these are not asylum seekers. They were offered asylum, they were offered jobs, they were offered education, they were offered health care benefits by the country of Mexico. If they were asylum seekers, they've been offered asylum. These are people that are moving for economic migration and family reunification to the United States. That's not asylum. And it's not about the caravan. In October, there was a nearly 350% increase in the number of migrants who illegally were apprehended at the border, illegally crossed the border, compared to October a year ago. 350% increase. 3,300% increase in the El Paso sector, home to Beto O'Rourke. That's ridiculous. We are being invaded by a group of people who are coming here to break our laws. The president is asking that they just honor the law, show up at a port of entry, and apply for asylum. If they've got a true asylum claim, they'll be granted asylum. If not, they need to go back to their country.
Bill King?
So for a number of years, I chaired Interfaith Ministries, which runs one of the biggest refugee resettlement programs in Houston. And the refugee resettlement program, I think, is a great program. We've admitted hundreds of thousands, millions of people to that program. Very, very few problems with the people that have come through that program. The people that come through that program are very carefully vetted. And to Bob's point, when you have people show up at the border without going through that process, you don't have the opportunity to vet them. And so, look, I understand that, you know, we need to have a process for this, and we can't let people just show up, you know, helter-skelter. But at the same time, we need to take any asylum claim seriously.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. We in the Houston area are sending 3 new leaders to Washington. Sylvia Garcia will represent much of the East Side in historic fashion as one of the first 2 Latinas from Texas elected to the House of Representatives. Retired Navy SEAL Dan Crenshaw will continue his inspirational national service as Ted Poe's successor in District 2. And after dislodging incumbent John Culberson in a race that drew national attention, Lizzie Fletcher will be the first Democrat in more than half a century to represent Houston's once staunchly Republican West Side. With their victories just hours old, the winners were fielding our tough questions from Fox 26.
And I think it's important that the Democratic majority perform its essential function of being a check on the other branches of government.
I would just ask my Democratic colleagues to do what they think is in the best interest of the nation. You know, if their goal was to take over the House and create complete chaos for the White House, how is that helpful? You know, and I question whether it is.
Did our community get an upgrade with these guys? I'm going to start with Jessica Colon.
Well, I think Judge Ted Poe, Congressman Poe, has left an incredible legacy, and I think Dan Crenshaw is going to start his own legacy. So I would hesitate to say an upgrade because I think Congressman Poe has done an extraordinary job for North Houston. And I look forward to seeing what Congressman-elect Crenshaw is going to do. Everything we've seen from him on the campaign trail has been honorable, and he's laid out policy positions. So I think he's made his claim very clear. As far as Congressman-elect Garcia, no major change there. And regarding Congressman-elect Fletcher, we had a very close race in CD7, and she will be vulnerable in 2 years.
Okay, Tony, say something about Sylvia.
Sylvia Garcia, that's all you say about Sylvia?
Right.
Sylvia Garcia is an icon in our community and will represent Texas well, women well, Latinas well. I'm so proud of her making history as the first Tejana. But you know what? She talks the talk and walks the walk. She was doing block walking. And I remember too, as well too, when we were first fighting to get Mexican American Studies put into the books, she was there with us shoulder to shoulder. So long live Sylvia Garcia, long live Texas.
Tomaro Bell, they are first-year members. I mean, they're rookies up there. But do you think, do you have confidence they'll do well?
Everybody who is in there now was a rookie at some point, okay? Nobody was born being a member of Congress, all right? So they had to learn. I am very pleased. I am so proud of Lizzie Fletcher. She ran an excellent race. And you talk about Judge Ed Emmett not running a hard race. Culberson was shocked at what he was up against. I am very proud of her. I am very disappointed in some of the faith-based community leaders who have made comments in particular about this race and calling the Democratic Party godless because of the results of a political race. I don't think that that is something that you should do, and nothing is altruistic. And to call a party, a political party of whatever it is, godless, I don't believe you're in a position to judge character.
Okay, Bob Price, jump in, and then Bill, and then I'm saving you some time because you'll come after me.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bob.
All right, I want to thank Congressman Culberson for his service. He did a great job for the people of Houston, representing that district for many, many years, and before that as a state representative. So there's a long history of service there. The House is under Democrat control coming January 2nd. The House needs to understand that it has a job to govern and not just obstruct everything that goes on. There are constitutional requirements for them to do budgets and other issues. Well, let's find some things that we can agree on: infrastructure, criminal justice reform, find some ways to move our government forward.
Real quick, Bill.
All three of these are bright, capable people, certainly. Sylvia, I've known for many years, a lot of experience, but Sam Rayburn said, send people to Congress young and have them stay there for a long time. Seniority really matters, and Texas lost a tremendous amount of seniority, not here, but all over the state.
Okay, welcome back. We know it's almost impossible to absorb everything you really ought to know, but fear not, because the Watch Your Point crew is here to fill in the gaps by answering the question, what did we miss, Tony Diaz?
I'm glad this election has shattered the myth that Latinos don't vote. Now the work is for Democrats to cultivate the next wave of Latina candidates, do more work in Spanish, and then also work out and reach out to Latinos in the rural areas.
Tomaro Bell.
To all the Californians, my heart goes out to you all. That's how numb we have come to mass shootings. It wasn't even on the program today. I'm so sorry for all of you all who lost your lives and to your families at the club and to those that died in the wildfire. God be with you.
Bill King.
10 members of City Council voted to pay $6.7 million in legal fees from Harvey relief funds to Sylvester Turner's former law partner. If you'd like to know how your City Council person voted, go to my website, billkingblog.com.
Bob Price.
The shooter that she mentioned was a Marine Corps veteran who had mental health issues. We need to do our veterans, on this Veterans Day, we need to do our veterans a favor and take care of those who have mental health issues. To my fellow veterans out there,
Nyanza Moore.
And we want to say this is the 100-year anniversary of the ending of World War I. We have President Trump in France right now, who gave a speech earlier, I guess it's last night. So we want to all make sure that we understand that war is not a place we need to be in. And maybe the blue wave of Democrats will bring a time for peace.
20 seconds.
Dan Crenshaw was a class act through this entire SNL debacle, and I give a lot of credit to Pete Davidson for going on the air and apologizing to him live on TV.
Really cool. All right. That's all the time we have. Thanks to our team. And remember, keep it right here. Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace is coming up at the top of the hour. And certainly be sure to join us next week for the latest edition of Watch Your Point. Have a great week.